In this video, I'm going to be ranking each individual survivor all the way from Dwight to Lara Croft. All of these rankings will be my own personal opinion from both sides. So if you have a problem with one of my rankings, you can leave it down in the comments below. And if we can get this video to just 50 likes, I'll do another one of these for the killers. As it turns out, there are now 43 unique survivors, not including special skins, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. First up, we have our day one boy, Mr. Dwight. Not a whole lot I can say about this man. He does have a ton of really great cosmetics. However, I've never seen a Dwight really blow me away. They're mainly just goofy, so I'm going to put him at a standard B tier to start off the list. Next up, we have Megan, who is probably the best choice for new players. However, it really shows because every single Meg I go against is an absolute Meg head. There's a reason that's an insult, and so she's going to be going at D tier. Next up is my personal main, Claudette. If you end up seeing a full Claude squad, you can definitely rest assured that those gens are getting done. The loop times might vary though, but at least we'll spend more time on a gen than on a hook. So for me, that's an easy A tier. Next up, we have our boy Jake. Very similar to Dwight, doesn't have as many cosmetics, but they all understand the core concepts of the game, and so they're overall just a solid teammate, so that's an easy B tier. Next up is Nia, probably the community's personal favorite. She has a ton of really great cosmetics, and balanced landing is overall a really interesting perk. They're also probably the only survivor that actually enjoys taking us to the game. And also, I could be wrong, but I think she's the first survivor to get a visual update. So now she looks less like that. Overall, that's a solid S tier from me. Next up, we have Laurie Strode. She gets bonus points for being in the first major DLC update to Dead by Daylight, but overall she's kind of like Meg in regards to skill. They usually don't have any idea what they're doing, at least from my experience, so that's another D from me. Heh. Next up, we have Ace. I really like a lot of his cosmetics, but at least from my experience, he is the most toxic mother out there. I've literally never seen them flashlight save and not teabag afterwards, so for me, that's going to be the first F of the list. Next up, we have Bill. The ones I play with seem to always get slugged the most, and never bring Unbreakable. So just that alone for me is going to have to be a standard C tier. Next up is Fengmin, and you guys are going to want to pay attention to this. Alright, just take the fries like this, put them in the bag, yep, just like that. And let's not forget about the hat, perfect. Nah, but for real though, who hurt you? Because you guys are the most toxic survivors that I have the displeasure of being queued up with. So for me, that's going to have to be an F tier. Get out of here. Next up, we have our boy David. You guys are usually down to clown around and are pretty chill, and you're also just overall a solid teammate. I've seen y'all take hits more than any other survivor, so for me, that's an easy A. And now we have Quentin, which if you're playing Quentin, what are you doing? I rarely see any of you out here at all, and honestly, you don't really do that well, so for me, that's gonna have to be just a D tier. Next up, we have Detective Tap, another survivor I don't see that often, but they're a reasonable teammate. They at least understand how to play the game. Not much I can say, they'll go in the C tier. Next up, we have Kate, who was all the rage when I started playing back in year 2. She has a lot of really great cosmetics and is overall just a really friendly survivor, always down to hang around. And they're always happy to heal if needed. So for me, that's gonna have to be an A tier. Now on the list we have Adam, and I've never seen an Adam not running autodidact. So a teammate like that who's always prepared to heal is a really huge plus. Their looping technique could be a bit better though, so from me that's gonna be a B tier. Next up we have Jeff himself. Another survivor I don't see that often, but man, they are always gonna be looking stylish or looping the killer for 5 gens or just being an absolute solid teammate, always taking hits. So for me personally, that's gonna be another S tier. Next up we have Jane, who is an instant S tier for obvious reasons. Next up we have Mr. Ashley. A lot of you really need to stop talking to your puppet hand and focus on the game. Most of you run to the worst loops imaginable time after time. So for me, I'm sorry, that's gonna have to be a B tier, even though I really think he's a cool character. Next up on the list, we have Nancy. In terms of the people playing Nancy, I do see a lot of P100s, but I don't see a lot of really good ones. And most of them are usually a bit rude, especially in the endgame chat. So at least for me, I'm sorry, that's gonna have to be a C tier. And moving on with Steve, I've gotta say they seem to be one of the more cocky survivors. They're usually always wearing the really nice sunglasses and bringing in really nice flashlights, but they usually end up causing more harm than good. So many times have I seen a Steve try to take a hit for me and then go down himself, getting the killer 2 easy hooks. So I'm sorry, but for me, that's gonna have to be another D tier. Next up, we have Yui. I literally cannot remember the last time I've seen a Yui in my lobby. I'm gonna have to put her at a C tier. Next up, we have Zarina. I get it, For the People is a really awesome perk, but you also need to focus on the game and do gens. I know it's fun to run around all game and wait for someone to go down, but at least do some gens so we can all get out safely. One more D from me. Next up, we have Cheryl, and if you do play her, your favorite map is probably Midwich. As a teammate, you're not terrible, but your flashlight saves could be a little bit better. So for me, that's just gonna be a C tier. Next up, we have Felix. I don't know too much about the character, but I do really like some of his fancy cosmetics, and the collab they did with Rainbow Six Siege I thought was pretty neat. The ones I play with are almost always better than the average survivor, so for me it's going to be a B tier. Next up we have Elodie. As a teammate you usually don't do anything worth noting, and I can't even remember the last time I played with one, so we'll just put her right at the middle in C tier. Next up we have Yoon Jin Lee. If you do play her, you're probably a huge K-pop fan, which does mean... Next up we have Jill. I cannot get enough of y'all in my lobby. You guys are so much fun and you do a really good job at utilizing Blast Mine. We'll put her at an easy B tier. Leon obviously goes at S tier, no questions asked. Moving on to Michaela. Let's be honest, the OG Michaela mains probably have every single cosmetic she has, and they're not going to stop playing her anytime soon. You do tend to be some of the best loopers, however. I can't quite put her at S tier personally, so I'm going to put her at an A. Next up we have Jonah. I swear you guys act like you don't even have a neck. You know you can look behind you, right? Y'all get pulled off gens more than any other survivor I've ever seen. So for me that's going to be a C tier. Next up we have Yoichi. A lot of you guys really need to go back to the tutorial. Why is it that you always go down in Killer Shack? For me, that's just going to be a simple C tier. Next up we have Hattie, and the people who play her have probably had enough with this game because y'all ult F4 faster than any other survivor. Right down to D, where you belong. Next up we have Ada. What? She's an absolute cutie patootie, and everyone who plays her is as well. Next up we have Rebecca. I unfortunately rarely see Rebecca, so I don't know, Rebecca, there's a B in there, we'll put her at B tier. Next up we have Vittorio. Let's be honest, you're probably going through a medieval phase, and that's okay. I've played Elden Ring too, and I get it. We'll put him at a B tier. Next up we have Thalita. I hate to break it to you, but being P69 is not the funniest thing in the world. You guys are very good at looping though, so I'm gonna have to give you a B tier. Just maybe calm down on the teabags after you've stunned the killer. Next up we have Renato. You guys are some of the best loopers in the game, but I feel like whenever someone gets hooked, you don't even acknowledge them. Like, bro, I'm gonna die and then you're next. Gonna put him at B tier though, because those loops are nasty. Gonna be honest with you, I don't even know who this guy's name is. It's 5 in the morning. He's gonna go at C tier. Next up we have Nicolas Cage. Another survivor that's just really goofy and loves to have a good time. You tend to get picked up whenever you use plot twist though, so sadly I'm gonna have to put you right at A tier. Next up we have Ellen. If you do play Ellen, it probably means you're a big fan of Alien, which is fine, just please keep your search history away from me. We'll put her at a basic B tier. Next on the list we have Alan Wake. Let's be honest, you probably bought him just because you love spamming flashlights, but I must say your flashlights tend to be more accurate than anyone else's. So we'll put you right at B tier. Next up we have Sable. Now if you are a Sable main, you're probably a goth girl IRL, which of course means... Next on the list we have...
Estri Yazar and Bayermar Aras.
I'm gonna be honest, this whole 2-in-1 character thing is kind of odd. I'm not even gonna look at this one. We're just gonna put that right down on F. I don't think anyone will complain. And finally we have Lara Croft, and as of recording this video she has not come out yet, but I have got to play with some of you guys on the PTB. Y'all were pretty chill, so I'll go ahead and put her in an A tier, and hopefully that'll hold up long term. We're finally done. All 43 survivors ranked. Sure, it's 6 AM, but hey, we got the job done. So how did I do? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Am I a big fat stinky idiot? Feel free to let me know down in the comments. But if you did watch the video all the way through, all I can say is thank you. As of recording, we're almost at 500 subscribers, so if you do like this kind of content, feel free to hit that like or subscribe button, and I will be back in the next one.